You know what I wish existed when my kids were little? Great Wolf Lodge. An indoor water park inside your hotel where it's always 84 degrees, especially living in Phoenix where the sidewalks burn your toes. That would have been amazing. At Great Wolf Lodge, the whole family gets to splash around in a massive indoor water park with a wave pool, a lazy river, and water slides that you can all ride together. But here's what's really cool about it. They also have Magi Quest, which is a live action adventure game kids play throughout the entire lodge. It's like the magic never stops and your kids are always occupied. Between the Northern Lights Arcade, the great dining options, and the complimentary dance parties nightly, there's genuinely something for everyone all under one roof. No packing up and driving somewhere every hour. No, I'm bored. Just connection, fun, and honestly, a little magic for you too. With 22 lodges across the country, there's probably one close to you. Check it out at greatwolf.com and bring your pack together. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. Hello to all my Lolas out there. Oh, if you are balancing your career with parenting, this episode is a must listen for you. So many working moms feel like they're constantly juggling everything and still dropping something. You're managing work and kids and schedules and home, and it never fully feels under control. Even when you're getting things done, there's this underlying feeling of, I'm behind, I'm missing something. Do you know what I'm talking about there? Do you feel that? Instead of feeling accomplished, you feel stretched thin and absolutely exhausted. Now, I want to tell you the issue isn't that you're bad at this. The issue is that you've just been handed too many balls to juggle and no one ever questioned it. And when everything feels equally important, of course, it feels like you're constantly failing. So in this episode, we are going to break it down, how to juggle a little bit more efficiently. First, we're going to talk about how to prioritize as a working mom without feeling like you're failing something. And then what boundaries actually look like. Yes, I am talking directly to you about these boundaries. And then how to create some simple systems, like really, really easy stuff that make your life feel lighter and not more complicated. So stay with me because what our guest shares about this juggling act is going to completely change how you think about balance. And to do that, to help us out, is Sarah Armstrong. She is the Vice President of Global Marketing Operations at Google, where she leads large-scale teams and helps drive strategy at one of the most influential companies in the world. She's also a working mom who's navigated the very real challenges of balancing career, parenting, and life transitions, including divorce. Through her own experience, she's become a trusted voice for parents who feel like they're constantly juggling everything and trying to hold it all together. She's the author of The Art of the Juggling Act, Bite-Sized Guide for Working Parents, and The Mom's Guide to a Good Divorce. I am so excited for you to hear from her. We talk about everything from how to say no and a little tip she gives about saying no that you really, really need to hear, to what she means by the transference of hours and how Find a Cupboard can really help you become more present at home. So with that, let's get on with the show. Welcome, Sarah, to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I'm so excited to have this discussion with you.
Great to be here with you, Jen. Really looking forward to it.
It is such a big topic for moms who are very successful in their careers, and then they come home and they feel like they're just failing at everything. How has this shown up in your life?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I was a working mom the whole time I raised my daughter, Grace. She's 23, but I had a long period of working from the time she was born all the way through her graduating from college. And one of the things that I think showed up really is my reflection is that, we go to school for a lot of things, Joanne, but we don't learn about parenting in school.
We don't, not at all. Yeah.
Then we also don't learn how to manage our careers in school.
No, tell me more about that. Like how in terms don't we learn?
Well, the thing is, you think you go to school to maybe study a topic, but there's
Mhm.
not a lot of conversation about the managing of your career. And then when you put the two things together, we definitely don't learn about how to manage both aspects of your life, being a parent and manage your career, and how we want to do those two things at the same time. And
Mm.
important things we're going to do in life, right? And how do we do them in a healthy and happy way? And so, that is one of the things I've really reflected on over the years. And
Mhm.
as I've gone through my career in raising Grace. And so my goal was really to figure out how to pay it forward to the next generation of working parents and moms who are trying to figure this out, because I literally think it's a day to day juggling act. And what
Yeah.
everyone really, I see a lot of wonderful, amazing working parents around me even today, and what I do. And I see a lot of them surviving and maybe not thriving. And I
Mhm.
think we all want to thrive. But to your point, some days we feel like we're just surviving, we're just hanging on. And I'd love to figure out how to help everyone to thrive.
Yeah, I'm so interested because I worked in the corporate world briefly when I was just out of college. I worked in television development at a production company. But after that, I was in education as a teacher, and now I'm an entrepreneur. So I don't really, I'm curious as to how it is. You have a very corporate job at Google, managing large scale teams. How are you pulled toward work and also pulled toward home? And then how do you kind of like reconcile the two?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I first of all, I think for all of us, if we're in this situation where we're looking to work and be a mom, there are those gravitational pulls in the moment. And what I always found, like I wanted to make sure I was present where I needed to be. And
Mhm.
so, like the pull towards, when I was in work, I wanted to be present, but when
Yeah.
I was with Grace, I really in that gravity, I really wanted to be there for her. And because our kids, especially as working moms, get so few hours with us, that
Right.
when that gravitational pull was there to be with her and be in the moment with her, I really tried to focus on that. And it's really about building a muscle. And I call
Mhm.
it compartmentalization muscle, Joanne. And it's one
Compartmentalization. I hear that. Yes. Yes.
important muscles we can build in life. And actually, it's not one we all have naturally. And so
Mhm.
I just feel like if you can think about you're really compartmentalizing and being where you need to be. So when that gravitation, it's even beyond the gravitational pull. It's like if you're in work, try to put out of your mind all the things that you're supposed to be doing, on the home front or for your kids. There's time for that. And when you're at home, similarly, really being present with your kids and having that compartmentalization muscle that doesn't draw you into thinking about all the work stuff you should or could be doing. It's like, so I think it's the compartmentalization muscle is very key.
I hear that too because one of our inner circle members is a crime scene investigator, and she talks about this compartmentalization, which obviously, as a crime scene investigator, like you absolutely need.
Because yeah, because what you don't want to bring all of that home, absolutely. And the
No,
takes conscious effort. Like it's something you
it
actually have
does.
to practice. It's not something that naturally may be built in you, and so you have to think it's a muscle. And how do you build that muscle so that you can use it not even just as a working parent, just in life? I think it's a key muscle to have.
Right. Like she describes it as she's like picturing putting those things in a little box, closing it, and pushing it to the side of her head. Do you have kind of a visualization like that or a practice you do to make sure you can compartmentalize?
Literally, I say I have a switch. I literally get it's crazy. It's like I'm like, switch it off. I tell myself, switch it off, go into, whatever, whichever way I'm heading,
Yeah.
because I think otherwise, because we're a culture right now with so many things that are coming at us. We do lots of multitasking. We think we do that well. I question whether we do
We
multitasking.
do not. Nope.
If we know that, so then this is just that next layer. Like if you're trying to multitask and try to manage two sides of your life all at once, it's like, honestly, I think that's where the stress and the weight of our day to day comes in and becomes so significant. And so it's a matter of what are those tools, what are those muscles we need to have so that we can really manage all this.
You know what? You're absolutely right because I think like my biggest stressor of working from home is that I cannot have that division between the tasks quite as clearly as I want to. For example, like right now, my kids are off because we're recording this on a school holiday. And just as soon as I was talking to you, I hear the TV go on in the other room and my attention is like "Vroom," over there. It is the
Yeah.
hardest thing to
Yeah.
compartmentalize and put those boundaries up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think especially for parents and moms that are trying to work from home, I think there's that next level of
Yeah.
what needs to be considered. And, boundaries is, one of the most I would say one of the most important things to really think about in
Hmm.
terms of as a working parent. The reason I think it's so important is we, we might think we're setting boundaries and we'll say to ourselves, okay, I'm going to kind of do X, Y. But the most important thing about setting and protecting boundaries is, first of all, to define them for yourself, but then to
Mm-hmm.
tell those people around you that they exist.
Yeah, that's a big one. I feel like a lot of people do not communicate the boundary.
Right. And if you don't do it, the hard part is if you don't do it, the people around you are going to step on or over those boundaries all the time, every day. And you're going to get
Mm,
frustrated thinking, well, I put up, I tried to do this, but so and so. It's like, no, people can respect boundaries if they know exist, or at least they can try. If you communicated them, then whether it's to your coworkers, to the person you work for, to your spouse, to your kids, whatever, the people in your life that you're trying, just saying this is something I'm trying to protect and so that I can do
right.
what I need to do. I do think it allows you to then have that conversation. Because if you never
Yes.
shared it in the first place, then you're telling them something after the fact and like, well, I didn't know that. So I do think one of the most important things is for you to think about what you want your boundaries to be, set them, and then really protect them. And the example I have
Ooh.
raising Grace is
Yeah, I want to give everybody really good examples of what boundaries they could set.
I have a couple. So first was on my work calendar. I had time blocked in the evening called Grace time.
Okay.
Okay, now her name happened to be Grace, but from 6 to 8 p.m. Now, the reason this is important is I was always in a global, I've always been in a global role where people could
Mhm.
technically want to talk to me at any hour of the day. And,
Right.
and I thought, these are Grace's 2 hours. So I would come home from work and know that I wouldn't have calls. I wouldn't have people expecting to hear me respond from an email, whatever. And so I called it Grace time. And my assistant knew that no one could touch those hours. And so
Hmm.
if someone said, oh, they want to talk to you at 6:30, I'm like, no, I could talk to them at 8 p.m. or I could talk
Yeah.
to them at 8 a.m. after I drop off for carpool. But 6 to 8
Hmm.
is not that's not happening. And it was over the course of her childhood, there were, I'd say, maybe a couple times that someone was able to break into that time, but it was very infrequently because I was so protective of those hours with her. So that's
Oh, I
something
love that
that I
example.
think is really important. So you have to kind of, again, set them and then really protect them. The second is, I do think, and going back to your point about working from home or coming in from an office, I think, one of the things that we have to do is also set our boundaries with our technology. And,
Hmm.
and so I have a saying called find a cupboard. And what this means is I worked outside of the home and came home from an office every day. And so I had built in my hallway, as I walked in, I had a cupboard where I put my tote bag and my laptop. And so when I walked in the house, literally it went in this cupboard. And so,
Oh, that's a good idea. Hmm.
and even if you work from home, having your laptop on the kitchen table, on the kitchen counter, even if it's closed, it's talking to you.
It is. You're reminded of it every time you walk by.
And
Yeah.
it's talking to you, it's drawing you in. It's like, oh, I need to do X, Y, Z. If it's a little bit out of sight, out of mind. But I think for those of us that are trying to manage these two sides of our life, for those couple hours where your kids are there, when you're wanting to be present with your kids, putting it
Hmm.
out of sight so it is not talking to you. And also, it's also not what your kids associate with you. You
Hmm.
want to know that mom or dad are there and they're with them, not kind of
Right.
being drawn to this wonderful piece of technology that requires us to be connected at all times.
Or not having your Apple Watch ding you for all the things or the notifications on your phone. Yeah.
The notifications during those hours, literally turn them
Hmm.
off because I think we're so connected these days and we have this
Yeah.
expectation of instant and immediate response on everything. It's like, you know what? I just don't think that that's the healthiest way if we want to be,
I don't think it
present
is
for
either. Yeah.
whichever part of our life we're trying to be present for.
You know what's interesting about tax season? It's one of the only times most people actually stop and look at their full financial picture earnings, spending, savings, all of it. And honestly, it made me realize I wanted that kind of clarity year round, not just once a year when the IRS makes me do it. Instead of just looking back and cringing, I'm now looking forward and I'm making moves. And for a mom who's trying to plan for kids' activities, save for a family vacation, and not completely ignore retirement, that clarity is everything. That's where Monarch comes in. I'm not just tracking spending and feeling bad, I'm actually hitting milestones. And when that tax refund hits, I know exactly where it's going to make the biggest difference for my family. Simplify your finances with Monarch. Monarch is the all in one personal finance tool designed to make your life easier. It brings your entire financial life, budgeting, accounts, and investments, net worth, and future planning together in one dashboard on your phone or laptop. Feel aware and in control of your finances this tax season and get 50% off your Monarch subscription with code NOGUILT. Achieve your financial goals for good with Monarch, the all-in-one tool that makes money management simple. Use code NOGUILT at monarch.com for half off your first year. That's 50% off at monarch.com, code NOGUILT. I just got back from Japan and packing is always my nemesis. I always end up with like 4 bags just for my toiletries. But this trip was different. I brought my Quince travel case and the leather felt incredible. It had these built-in straps, like little slots perfectly sized for my makeup brushes, so I didn't have to just stuff them in. And all of my toiletries fit. All of it in one gorgeous case. I didn't have to pack 3 separate bags. I didn't have to dig around for anything. I was organized and it was beautiful, which apparently is something I didn't know I needed until I had it. That's the thing about Quince. They make pieces that are premium quality without the ridiculous markup. We're talking 100% European linen, organic cotton, soft denim, leather bags made from 100% hand woven Italian leather, and styles starting around $50. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen. So the price you see, that's for the quality, not the brand name. Their spring pieces are lightweight, breathable, and the kind of things you just throw on and look like you have it all together, even if you absolutely do not. I'm speaking from experience. Refresh your spring wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/NGM for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. Go to quince.com/NGM for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/NGM. Is get the kids in swim lessons sitting on your mental to-do list right now? Maybe it's been there since last summer. No judgment. You're not behind and you are not the only one. Here's what I love about Goldfish Swim School. They get it. Their whole approach is built around meeting kids exactly where they are, not rushing them, not stressing them out, just building real water confidence and safety skills at their own pace. They use something called the science of swim play, which blends guided play with proven teaching techniques. So your kid is basically having fun and learning to be safe in the water. It's a win-win. And they've thought of everything too. Warm indoor pools, professionally trained lifeguards on deck at every single lesson, flexible scheduling, and easy makeups right through their app. Because life is busy and consistency shouldn't be a battle. Goldfish has lessons for kids as young as 4 months all the way through age 12. If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations. Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE. It's a simple way to get started and feel confident knowing you're giving your child skills that really matter. It's so interesting at a conference like a few years ago, there was a male speaker on stage and he was talking to us as a bunch of entrepreneurs. And he's like, the best way to grow your business is to respond right away to customers. Like they are the priority. And all of us in the room were like, hold up, hold up. Like that's just not possible when you're juggling the roles of a parent and you're trying to grow as well. It's almost like this message gets told to us that unless we can be there 100% for our job, we're not valued as an employee. And I'm guessing like a lot of women also feel that pressure in the corporate space as well. What do you say about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is that pressure, and especially because of how our technology can allow us to respond immediately. And again, just
Mhm.
because we can doesn't mean we always need to. Now, there are instances, depending on your role and depending on the situation, where that immediate response is required. So I'm not saying that that
Yeah.
happen, but I think it's a matter of what is the practice you want to put in place to help manage that for, again, I'm talking about a couple hours, like what for the 2 hours a day your kids are, that you're really with your kids,
Hmm.
in a working life, you get up, you get them ready for school or whatever the case is. You had to work, you come home, you've got dinner, either bath time if they're little, whatever, little time, and then they're off to bed. There's just
Yeah.
so little time, and so I think it's just a matter of how we really think about that prioritization and that boundary that we want to set in terms of the physical interaction with our electronics.
So, moving a little bit from the electronics to like maybe superiors in the workplace or things that are being asked of you, something I really, really want to talk about is that there are always going to be people who want more from you at work. And sometimes it's easier to say no to our kids and set those boundaries there than it is to set a boundary with a boss because they kind of control your whole economic scenario. How do you recommend dealing with a boss or manager who is just demanding at all hours?
Yeah, yeah. So a couple thoughts. First of all, I talk in my book about the power of saying no.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, again, depending on the situation, I'll talk about the boss dynamic in a second. But let me just explain why I feel so strongly about this, as a part of our lives. I feel like we, especially as women, a lot of times are either apologetic when we say no,
Hmm. Yeah.
or if we say no, we then have to explain ourselves. And that third
Yeah.
part, I had a colleague, and it was a fascinating moment a number of years ago when I was explaining to a colleague of mine, actually a male colleague, that I couldn't do a meeting with him. And I was like, I can't do it. And I was giving him all the reasons why. And he stopped me mid sentence. He goes, Sarah, he said, all you have to say is you can't make the meeting, and you can say no. You don't have to explain to me why.
Mm.
The reason is the minute you start explaining why you can't make it, I start making a judgment of you of whether you've made the right call. And that's not my judgment call.
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
It was so powerful, Joanne. And honestly, it's one of those moments like, God, I wish I'd been told this 25 years ago. Because, by the way, this doesn't just apply to your professional life, it applies to your personal life. Like, if you can't do something
Yes.
socially, or it's like instead of saying, oh, I can't go to dinner with you because I'm going to dinner with someone else, it's like, I'm sorry, I can't make that date. You don't
Yeah.
give the reason. Because again,
No.
and even if you give it in your personal life, if you give it to a friend saying, I can't do it because I'm doing XYZ, they're like, well, I think what I was asking you to do was probably better than that. So it's really interesting. And I've been practicing this now. I was told that in 2017. I know the year because it was so important. So I'm, 9 years into practicing this, the power of saying no. And I have to say, it is so liberating
Hmm.
to say no and confidently say no and not have to explain or apologize.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it is. It is. I like the whole redirection thing after I
Yes.
say no too. Like getting them immediately on the next task, being like, no, I can't make it. What's another date you could
Yeah,
do?
there
So
you go.
it's,
No,
yeah.
absolutely, and that's part of it. That's part of it. And then going back to your question on demanding bosses, I mean, I think there is a reality in the work world where you're eventually, or in the course of your career, you're going to work with someone who may
Mhm.
be demanding on time that in your mind is like, well, that's not in the time frame that I would do this. Or so I think it's a
Yeah.
matter of being really clear again what boundaries you're trying to set, and if they don't either understand them or respect them, it's having a conversation of what you are or are not capable of doing in terms of meeting those demands. And
Mm.
on some roles, it may be that then that's not the right fit for you as a role, because if that's the
Right.
expectation. In other situations, individuals say, oh, I didn't realize that. You can actually help people understand and change behavior. But it is about communicating and then sussing out with that communication what situation you're in and how you
Oh.
manage it moving forward. But instead of feeling like all you need to do is take on all those demands, I do think everyone
Mhm.
has the agency to have a conversation about how you're trying to manage your work and your life.
Mhm.
And this, by the way, goes beyond, it's whether you're a working parent, you could be single. It's like, what are the things that you're trying to create space for in your life that you need to go do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's important. I know this is probably a question that is in a lot of our listeners' minds right now about boundaries, because sometimes we don't even know we need to set a boundary until it's crossed. Like, how do you go about that, realizing that, oh my gosh, like, I am not happy with this. I'm not happy with these demands. I need some more time or focus or attention, but I didn't know to communicate this beforehand. I don't want to apologize. Like, what's a great way to tackle that?
Well, I think it's a matter of when you have that moment of reflection or the realization to then say, okay,
Mhm.
how do I want to then reestablish that that boundary is something I want to exist? And
Mhm.
and also, even if you said, I've had instances where I've had a boundary that I set, and then I realized that I've been walking all over it, and everyone else has, and it's gone away, or it's
Oh, do you remember what that was?
dissipated. Oh yeah, I mean, I there are examples over the years. I think for me, again, because of the global nature of my role, there's, times later in the like I would do late night calls in
Mhm.
Asia, and there's a point where I'm like, "Why? Okay, I could do these earlier," because then I was impacted even me getting good sleep, and
Yeah.
actually being able to function the next day. So I think it's a matter of when you say, "Oh, I can do it," and you start stretching on the other end of your boundary, and then.
Mhm.
I said I could do something at, 8 or 9 p.m., but, 11:30, like maybe I need to cut that down a bit. So that's a little bit on the extreme, but it is definitely a reality for me given the global nature of my role and who I could be talking to at any hour of the day.
I see it. I mean, my husband manages teams in Bangalore, and so he has, like, frequent 9 PM, 10 PM meetings that and it's a hard thing to juggle. I
It is.
definitely have empathy for it.
It is. And because your mind, honestly, once you get off those calls, your mind is still clicking away, right? You're still thinking it's hard to completely quiet those thoughts once you've gotten off one of those calls right away. So
Yeah, he usually stays up till, like, 1 AM. I go to bed at, like, 10, Sarah. I, like I really need my
it's,
sleep. I
it's
couldn't
good.
do what he does.
Good. Good. Protect that sleep. It's so important for our health.
It's so important. I get psycho if I do not get my sleep. It is not a good thing.
Big Deal brands are up to 25% off right now at Designer Shoe Warehouse. You're not going to want to miss this. These brands almost never go on sale. At DSW, we'll give you something to brag about. Like up to 25% off select styles from Adidas, Crocs, Nike, Reebok, and more brands you love. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Save today at your DSW store or DSW.com. DSW, let us surprise you.
For 100 years, Monrovia has been dedicated to finding and growing the very best varieties for gardens across the country. Discover Monrovia's Landscape Legends collection to find our greatest selections, recommended by nurserymen, landscape designers, and home gardeners for time-tested performance and long-term impact. These reliable performers will add value to your landscape for years to come. Shop now online at monrovia.com or in person at your local garden center.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
But I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Moving into, like, some systems that we could set in place as working moms. You have
Yeah.
something called the Sunday list. Tell me
Yes.
about that.
Well, I think it's one of those easy things that I started years ago, and when I share it with others, like, oh, that's such. So basically, what the Sunday list is as a working mom or working parent, there's so many things coming at you every day, right?
Mhm.
That you're supposed to do, and I say supposed to do in air quotes. It's the birthday, RSVP. It's the field trip, permission slip. It's the uniform you have to order. It's all the
Mhm.
and there. It's the running list that you literally have, running in your head. And so what I decided is I have a, to-do list, but I had a Sunday part of my to-do list, which I put the things that weren't immediate that I didn't have to respond to right away on my Sunday list. What that
Okay.
allowed me to do is then all those little things that were pecking at me throughout the week would be on the Sunday list. Then I would set aside a time, whether it's I usually set an hour, sometimes it needed to be two, but usually about an hour, and I would just crash through that list. And then if it wasn't immediate even for that week, it might go to the next Sunday. It didn't need to be done during the week. I think that's the thing we need to realize is our weekdays as working moms, every minute is counting, for what you're trying to juggle. And somebody
Mhm. Absolutely.
don't need to be handled in that work day, or work week setting. And they can wait till Sunday. And so
Mhm.
I still to this day have a Sunday list. But the reason that's important is once you write it down, you have the permission to forget it. It doesn't have to sit there, continue saying, oh, you haven't done that, you haven't done that. And I think that's some of the mental, talking about, guilt, or, the mental fatigue we have is trying to keep track
Mhm.
of all the things that we're meant to be doing. And
And it's insane. It gets to be insane. Like I've had this recently where there's this task on my to-do list that I've just been putting off and putting off and putting off. And I realized how much mental like load it was putting on me because I kept reminding myself I had to do that task.
exactly, exactly. And we do. And we honestly, as moms, we beat ourselves up for it. We're like, oh,
Mhm.
done that yet. Like at night. And I say there's, when you lay down at night and your mind kind of allows you, your mind, the things you didn't do that day, right? Start
Yeah.
writing the things you didn't, oh, I forgot to do that. Oh, so I think those are the things that we have to, if we can, get them on a list. It could be a list that you need to do the next morning because there's a timely nature to it. But a lot of things are things we can do, but we have to do them right now. And
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing, that sometimes we put the pressure that because it comes in, going back to our earlier point about immediate response, because that birthday invite comes in, we feel like we have to respond right away. Oh yeah, we can make it. It's like, you know what? You can respond. It's okay. It's okay. They don't
Yeah.
know the minute they send out the invitation that you're going to be there. So it's those things. It's giving ourselves a little bit of space and grace that it can be handled, maybe just not in the moment.
It could be done, yeah, later. And for all of the moms listening with ADHD out there, because it's a large part of our audience, and I have it as well. Just the idea of sitting down to do those menial tasks is so much work. It is so much work. So for all those moms, I suggest like find a buddy that you could do this Sunday list with. So you guys are doing it like next to each other or like on the phone or something like that. That's a way I get through those really boring things.
Yeah, no, it's fair. And by the way, it's
Yeah.
multitasking. I usually have either music on, or
Yes.
or I'm something sports on. I have something going on. So, because I'm not a huge fan of these tasks either. And uh,
No.
it's the stuff we have to do. So I feel like if you can, make it a little bit more fun while you do them, that's part of it too.
I'm always like, Netflix is on, like one of the dramas I'm watching, and I could do the task that way so I could watch TV at the same time. It works. Yeah. You also introduced this transference of hours. What does that mean, and how can moms use that to put more breathing room in their day?
Yeah. Well, I think because, again, and especially in this day and age, and I think as more hybrid working models are existing, and
Mhm.
I think that the ability to say, I know I need to get a job done. And this is speaking of, the career side of things, but it may not all happen in the traditional, I'd say 9 to 5 timeframe. And
Mm.
so it's a matter of figuring out, well, I know I'm going to need to get this done, but it might be something I'm doing in the evening after my kids go to bed, or I'm getting up a little extra early before the day starts to do, you know, uh, respond to a couple of things. So it's just a matter of recognizing that, there, in a more historical, if you look back over the years, there was this like time frame of how work had to get done. And I just,
Mhm.
that in this day and age, and as working parents, there is a transference of hours that you can actually flex, but also know
Okay.
with that transference of hours, it's allowing you to still deliver on what you need to deliver.
Got it. I want to talk about time for Sarah. Like you have work, you had parenting. Where
Yes.
did you ever find the time for like things outside that?
So important. So a couple
Yeah.
of things. First of all, again, this goes back to not feeling guilty about this. Every week, I mean, I set aside 1 hour. That was a
Mhm.
special hour for me, and that was that I was going to get a massage because I needed it. I have
They're
severe
great.
back issues. And so I was like, what, that's both keeping me healthy and keeping this body running. But it was my hour, and it
Mhm.
was like, I was so very protective of that hour. And I said, this is my, and it was a gift I gave to myself every week. So that's an example. The other thing is, I think carving out some time as moms and working moms for other friends that are, that
Yeah.
are trying to also juggle. And so, like, one of the things I did with a number of my friends is we would go to one of us would go to the other's house for dinner after the kids had gone to bed. So we did our dinner,
Mm.
and then, one of us would go the one way or the other, and it still allowed us to catch up. But we weren't going out, in fairness, because it was just yet another night of going out. But it was allowing us to catch up, and I think creating that space to spend time. I had both amazing working mom friends, but I had amazing stay-at-home mom friends, and you get
Mhm.
support and different perspective with both types of friendships. And so I really
Absolutely.
created space for those friendships over the years. It just gave me energy, to feel like, and I say this, very frankly, to feel like I wasn't just working and wasn't just being a mom. Like, I think
Right.
sometimes we can feel like that's all we have space for. And
Hmm.
so I really wanted to be able to feel like I did have that social aspect of my life still being fostered as I was trying to juggle these two sides of my life.
Yeah.
That was an important piece. And then the final piece is just I think a lot of us feel like we have to join like the pressure of giving back in a wonderful way. I'm a huge believer in giving
Mhm.
back, but the volunteering at school,
It's a huge pressure. Yeah.
the pressure
Hmm.
of that. And so the one thing I'd love to say there, because I feel like we all want to do that. We all want to give back and be present in our kids' school and do this. But I'll tell you from my story back in the day is I went into kindergarten with Grace and she was going to a new school and it was a parents' night and they had all these pieces of paper out on the table where you're supposed to sign up for something. And I looked at them like
Hmm.
I was so overwhelmed by there were so many pieces of paper. I thought, oh my God, look at all this. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna pick one. I'm gonna
Hmm.
so I picked Valentine's Day. I can't explain. I just thought, oh, that looks like a good one. So what I did is I picked Valentine's Day, and then I did Valentine's Day every year that Grace was in school, where they still wanted parents like in the classroom. And the reason it's
Yeah.
important is I didn't have the ability to do many of those things. I mean, because of being a working mom and being in the office. I was there every Valentine's Day, and Grace's memory now is mom was there
Hmm.
Valentine's Day. And we made
That's an awesome thing.
and so there's something about that that I think is important.
Hmm.
Figuring out you can't always be everywhere that your kids, want you to be in the school environment. And I think it's an important one to be able to like maybe pick one thing, but just do it well and just have fun with that one thing.
Yeah, this whole like signing up for stuff at the school is still so odd for me just because I used to be an elementary school teacher, but I was an elementary school teacher in a Title One school. So
Wow.
it's like a lot of the parents weren't able to
Right.
come during the school day and help out.
Yeah.
And the way the classroom was run, like we did great. We did great together. I would almost imagine as a teacher that parents would be another thing to manage rather than like
It's
support.
it's so funny, Joanne, because the school when we chose the school we chose, the teachers in the orientation said, We are here to teach your kids. We don't need you in the classroom for that. There's other things."
Mm,
And I looked at my
yeah.
husband at the time and I'm like, "This school's for us."
Let's go somewhere. Yeah, yeah.
Parents, I'm like, "This is for us," because I didn't want that. Because if we went to another school and they're like, "We want you in the library, we want you in the classroom," I'm like, "I can't do that." Like,
You
and then
can't
I
do
felt like
it,
I didn't
no.
put that pressure on me I knew what I was trying to do in terms of juggling, being a parent and working. Like, I don't
Mhm.
want that out of pressure. Like, that doesn't feel
No.
good. And knowing that I would be failing at hello. So we actually didn't
Yeah,
use that school in fairness because I didn't want that pressure.
that's a great reason to. I mean, for me, when my daughter was in school, I was the art masterpiece volunteer teacher. So, like, once a month, I
Yeah.
would be in there doing lesson, which was totally my jam.
Yeah.
It was all prepared for me. It seemed easy compared to what teaching was.
Yes.
With my son, because I had this company,
Mhm.
I had to really step back on the volunteers, and I just volunteered for one field trip a year to be there as the parent, just so I would get to know them, and I think that was great. That
Yes.
was great.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
It's like, what's your one thing? And don't feel like you
Mhm.
have to do so many. I mean, some people can have the freedom and the time. That's wonderful. I just never did. And I didn't want to feel, again, going back to guilt, I didn't want to feel guilty that I wasn't. I wanted to know that I
Right.
was doing what I could. And one of my sayings, Joanne, that I said to Grace all the years of her growing up, I said, Mom's doing the best I can,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
You tell her
Yeah.
to do your best, right? Do the best you can. That was like my little mantra to myself is
Mhm.
Sarah, you're doing the best you can. And
I love that as a mantra because you have to believe it too when you say
absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I knew that I was. I mean, again, was it all, was every day going exactly as planned? Maybe not, but I knew I was doing the best I can for what I was trying to juggle, and I think
Yeah.
Grace knew that too.
Oh, I love it, Sarah. You've given us so many great tips from like the Sunday list, the transference of hours, the saying no without apologizing. I want everybody to take that with them from this episode, saying no without apologizing.
Yeah.
I mean, it has just been full of gold. What would you say to a mom right now who feels like her work life balancing with her home life is just so chaotic?
Yeah.
What could she do to help herself out?
Yeah. I would say I do think taking a step back, giving yourself a moment to reflect and thinking, what is the one boundary you want to put in place that will help you? Okay.
Hmm.
Because I think if you can start with that one boundary and you start to build that muscle, it allows you to put up the next boundary And
Mm,
I really think that's the key to it is really to, but being thoughtful about what you want that to look like and trying to
mhm.
having kind of a reset moment with everyone in your world to say, I'm going to really try in this because I don't feel like I'm able to, manage all these things the way that I do. And I want to see if that helps.
Oh, I love that because I was just reading this book from a No Guilt Mom podcast guest. Her name's Atia Qureshi, and she wrote a book about negotiation, Never Settle.
Okay.
And the exercise that was in there was very similar. It was had to do with rejection. But I think the same holds for boundaries. Like to get comfortable with rejection, you need to go and put yourself out there and make asks little by little, and then pay attention to how it felt. Did the world melt down? Did everyone hate you? No, probably not. And then with that, you're building that muscle to go forward to conquer bigger and bigger things.
Absolutely. And this is the same thing. It's like just allowing your, but I think the reflection of what you want that boundary to be and then
Mm.
communicating and having the conversations, that takes a little effort again. And
It
it's
does.
building a muscle. But I do think you then figure out, oh, this can work. And then the confidence of saying, okay, that's my first boundary. What are the other ones that I want to set so I can really manage all of this?
Love it. Love it. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and tell us all about your book and where people can get it.
Great. So my book is called The Art of the Juggling Act. It's a bite-sized guide for working parents, and you can find it on Amazon, on all of the places where you can find books these days, and it is in a paperback and in an ebook version. So hopefully, and I will say just one little thing is my biggest realization as a working parent was no one has time to read a book, right? So I realized. So I wrote it with that kind of situation in mind. So it's written in bite-sized pieces, and there's basically 140 topics, and the table of contents is
Oh,
set out by topic, and then there's just one topic per page. So you might only read one page. That's all you need to
you
read.
could do it as like, yeah, like your little daily routine, just like
It's
one
not
page and
not
keep
meant
on
to be
going.
cover to cover. It's meant to be your guide, and I really hope it helps those working moms and working parents out there that are trying to figure out the day-to-day juggling act, because I do appreciate it's real, but hopefully you can go from surviving to thriving.
Excellent. Well, go and get Sarah's book, The Art of the Juggling Act. We are going to put a link for you in the show notes. And Sarah, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Joan. Really enjoyed the discussion.
Remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you. We'll talk with you later. If you'd like to support the show further, you can share episodes with your loved ones, leave a positive review, or follow us on social media at No Guilt Mom. You could also show your love by visiting our amazing podcast sponsors. We have a link in the show notes.